Now, the question must be asked.
Are we alone?
One of the greatest questions facing the history of the human race.
Open your mind to the impossible.
They're here.
Who
I'm sure it's not human.
or what
They are not ours.
is in our skies?
They're all over the world.
So a couple of days ago, 7 News, I believe it's an Australian news outlet, put out a new documentary on this disclosure, this UAP phenomenon, something they refer to generally as the phenomenon. Now, if you guys haven't been clued on in regards to this has been going on for the past couple of years. And as time goes by, this topic becomes more and more official. We've seen government officials, high-level individuals within the government, within the scientific community that have come out and are speaking about this phenomenon. There's documentaries and so on talking about the phenomenon, talking about this disclosure which is coming, etc. Now, I wanted to do this video to highlight a couple of very important points. Off from the onset, I'm going to make it clear that this is not a detailed video breaking down or discussing this phenomenon. For that, we're going to be doing a series of videos, inshallah, very soon, which delves into the details and really presents the case from an Islamic perspective. However, what I want to do is I want to give you guys a framework to contextualize what's going on from an Islamic perspective. The second thing I want to do is I want to outline the opportunity that's here for serious non-Muslim researchers into this phenomenon to take a good look at the Islamic tradition, because it has a lot to say in regards to this. And there are some non-Muslims that have done this already. There was a very interesting book called The Vengeful Jinn, which was written by Rosemary Ellen, I believe, and a guy named Ambrogno. I don't remember his name. I'll put the names up on the screen below. But this is a phenomenon, or this is a link that's been made by non-Muslims already. And the third thing I want to do is I want to outline that this is, when I as a Muslim talks about this phenomenon and we share our thoughts in regards to this from an Islamic perspective, this is not a dogmatic approach, because amongst some of the experts in the field, some of the guys that may not even be public in regards to this, but high-level individuals, high-level scientists, etc., they are not willing to engage classical traditions in regards to what they have to say about this phenomenon, right? They see as dogma. They see as just religious dogma, and they believe that they have to free themselves from this type of dogma so that they can really come to terms with this phenomenon and understand it better. However, what I want to posit here is that from an Islamic perspective, we're not just making a claim. We're not just saying this is X or that this phenomenon is jinn and that's it. Right? What we're doing, and what I'm going to be hopefully with some of the brothers that are really, have spent a lot of time researching this area and this field, and I can't take the names right now. However, what we're going to highlight over time, inshallah, is that we're not just pushing an idea or narrative out there, which you can claim to be dogmatic. What we're doing is we're saying, look, you have this phenomenon which is being studied, right? So we're analyzing what the experts are showing in regards to this phenomenon, its characteristics, what it does, etc. And then we're taking a good hard look at the Islamic tradition, the text, the Quran, the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the Hadith literature, and we are juxtaposing these two forms of knowledge. And what you see when you do this is that there are some striking parallels. There's some striking similarities. If anything, in many cases, it fits like a glove, right? The explanation Islam is providing in regards to this phenomenon, it fits like a glove. And again, a lot of these details we'll do in future videos, we'll cover in future videos. But I want to highlight that specific point too. So let's start with the very first thing. From an Islamic perspective, and this is for the Muslims predominantly, the clip, let me actually play the clip for you right now.
Why do you think there is such hostility to the idea of investigating the possibility of non-human intelligent life?
Well, that would put us not at the top of the food chain, first of all. And from a religious point of view, it's a context clash. That, okay, well, if these things exist and they're there, where do they fit in the hierarchy to angels and God?
So this type of idea that it's gonna, when this phenomenon starts to become more public knowledge, that this is going to present a challenge to religion. These types of essays and articles have been written before as well. You know, it's going to be a problem from a contextual perspective. How do you contextualize this phenomenon within the religious paradigm, etc.? This is an important question, but from the Islamic perspective, this is not an issue. Now, first and foremost, if this phenomenon is the jinn, well, then that easily fits within our Islamic paradigm anyway, because we know God has spoken about the jinn. The Quran is full of references to the jinn. There's an entire chapter in the Quran called the jinn. And we know these are beings created by God, just like the angels and human beings, and they were created with a purpose, and their purpose is identical to the purpose, their fundamental purpose is identical to the purpose of humans, which is to know God and to worship Him. And they were created before us. They have certain abilities that we don't have as human beings. We have certain traits and abilities they don't have, or not to that degree. And they fit into this paradigm very easily. God speaks about them. The Quran actually addresses humans and jinn. So if it is the jinn, if this phenomenon is the jinn, then there is no issue. There is no issue at all. We know where they fit in within the Islamic paradigm. Now, if they are not the jinn, say if hypothetically speaking, you know, this phenomenon is related to extraterrestrial beings from another part of the universe, somewhere else out there, even that idea or notion fits within the Islamic paradigm, because we know we have at least indirect references within the Quran which speak about, you know, or where God mentions that He is the one that spread and scattered life throughout the heavens and the earth. Right, so and this one interpretation of this can be that this is referring to other life forms that exist within our known universe. So either or, from an Islamic perspective, it doesn't matter. We contextualize everything within Islam and it makes sense. So for the Muslims, there is no issue here. However, this narrative unfolds over the coming months and years in regards to this phenomenon, whatever it is, it easily fits within the Islamic paradigm. The second thing I want to briefly touch upon is that this is an opportunity, and I've mentioned this already. This is a brilliant opportunity for non-Muslim academics and researchers alike to, at the very least, see what Islam has to say in regards to these beings that we refer to as the jinn, right? Who have been captured and spoken about in many, almost every culture, and you have traditions on them, you know, from all different civilizations and groups of people. So this phenomenon, as I've mentioned, is, you know, in the Quran, from the Islamic paradigm, these beings are referred to as the jinn. And there is a lot of information about them within the texts. So it's an opportunity for you to study it and see what it has to say. And as I said, in the Vengeful Jinn, that particular book, the authors have done a brilliant job in going to the Islamic sources, speaking to Muslim scholars, and extracting information. And when they've done this, and they have now taken this knowledge and imposed it upon what they know about the phenomenon, they have concluded, well, this is the jinn. The third thing I want to briefly touch upon is what I mentioned earlier, that this is not a dogmatic approach. I'm not taking a dogmatic approach. What we're essentially saying is that, look, you study the Islamic tradition, you study the Quran, you study the sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and then you study this phenomenon. You know, you read what Jacques Vallée and what John Keogh and all of these, you know, top-end researchers within the field are saying, and you compare the two sources of information, what you see that there's a parallel. There is an immense crossover here. I'll give you a few examples right now. In the Quran, and I'm paraphrasing, Allah refers to the jinn as, in one place, as the builders and the divers. Right? This was brought to my attention by one of my friends who's actually spent many years researching this phenomenon. Again, I can't disclose who he is right now, but maybe in the future you'll get to know him. But even if you look at this mention where God is specifying that the jinn as being builders and divers. Now, if you look at some of this phenomenon, you know, they refer to it as transmedium. So it could be in the air and then it could submerge within the water. And even just from this superficial perspective, you can see that this phenomenon is doing both. It's diving into sea, and it's submerging itself into the waters, and it can immediately within moments be up in the air. We know that there's a narration of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when he refers to the jinn being of three forms or categories, where he said one is that they are the type that fly through the air. The second is that they take forms like of dogs and snakes, etc. The third is that they come and go. Now, if you take these 3 points in regards to the jinn, and you look at, for example, what's taking place on the Skinwalker Ranch, about which there have been many recent documentaries and many books written, again, it's textbook. On the ranch, you see things flying through the air that they can't identify, that come and go, things that come and go, this phenomenon that comes and go, these frequencies that come and go suddenly. And also, there are myths there are stories there of dog-like beings, huge wolves that just come and then suddenly disappear. Again, textbook. You can see what I mean by parallels here, the way this information converges and it overlaps. And it fits completely. And there are many other things to say in regards to this. There's a lot of information out there. Again, when you start to study the Islamic tradition and you look at this phenomenon, you study the phenomenon, you see that there are a lot of parallels there. So again, there will be more information on this. But the point here is that we're not taking a dogmatic approach. We're seeing what the tradition is saying. We're analyzing the phenomenon, and we're seeing, is there a link? And when you study it, you see that there is more than just a link. It's a perfect fit. So in summary, the 3 points. Number 1, from an Islamic perspective, whatever this phenomenon turns out to be, although I am pretty convinced, and people I've spoken to that have actually researched this topic are fairly well convinced that this is the jinn, but Allah knows best. Whatever this phenomenon turns out to be, and whatever narrative we're given in regards to this phenomenon, because remember, there is the phenomenon, and then there is the interpretation of the phenomenon, which is given to the masses, right? So whatever that interpretation is, whatever it is, it's not gonna be an issue from an Islamic perspective. It's gonna fit within our framework just fine. Whether it's extraterrestrials or the jinn, there's not an issue there. Number 2, it's an opportunity for non-Muslims, to study and look into the Islamic tradition. Because remember, we have a claim as Muslims. This is revelation from the creator, the source, the creator of everything that exists. And we have good reasons to believe that the Quran is from God. It's not just the claim that we're making. We have good logical, we have good evidential reasons to suggest that the Quran is from God. There are several what we'd refer to as the miracles, or you can see them as miracles of the Quran, aspects of the Quran, which is a phenomenon in and of itself, but one which isn't really studied from this perspective and undermined, unfortunately, within popular discourse because, again, of a narrative that's been created and that's been given to the masses. But we have good reasons to believe this is from God, and we can establish that. And I have other videos on my channel, and I could also link you to those videos if anyone's interested. But yeah, point being that this tradition, this text that we have, the Quran and the sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, have immense amounts of information in regards to these beings referred to as the jinn, and it's something that the non-Muslims should and could freely study. And the third point is, we're not, from an Islamic perspective, I can speak for myself, that I am very cognizant of the fact that people that are studying this phenomenon are referring, whenever a religious perspective comes in, they completely dismiss it, saying, oh, it's dogma and we don't need this. But I'm cognizant of this fact, and this is why I'm saying that the approach I'm taking here is, I'm saying, look, you don't have, I'm not saying that, oh, Islam says this, therefore this phenomenon is this. No, what I'm saying is, look, see what the Islamic tradition has to say in regards to the jinn, see what this phenomenon is, and the study of this phenomenon, and see what we can learn about this, and compare those side by side, and you for yourselves will be shocked when you do this in regards to the parallels that exist, how these two things overlap each other. So I'm taking, if you can even refer to this as a scientific approach, because when you do science, what do? You collect data and you reason upon the data, and then you produce your theories and your ideas. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We are observing the data here. We're observing what Islam has to say. We are observing what we can learn about this phenomenon, and then we are now reasoning upon this. And like I said, there will be a lot more information, inshallah, I'll put out on my channel over the next, inshallah, in the coming future, God willing, which you will find very interesting, hopefully. And yeah, I just wanted to share this with you guys today, just to give us a bit more of a context in regards to what's going on and what may happen as this story unfolds over the next couple of months and years. So hopefully you found this beneficial. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Until next time, take care. Assalamu alaikum. Just before you guys go, if you haven't already, check out the Quranly app. It's a phenomenal app to help you develop a regular relationship with the Quran, something we all should be doing. Link is in the description box below.